If you're a CTO, a PM, or a senior engineer who needs to ship features fast without breaking production, this workflow is for you. I'm going to show you how I use Git with Cursor to add features to my live app in under 10 minutes. We're going to go from idea to production-ready code. And I used to be an engineer at Apple for 12 years, and this is the simplest process that I use to ship smart. So this is part one of my Ship Smart series, where I'm showing you how I actually ship software as someone who's constantly juggling multiple projects. And today we're going to be covering the foundation, which is the basic Git workflow that lets you test AI-generated code safely before it hits production. We're going to add real features to my app named Anime Leak. Users have been actually asking for the ability to preview the original image alongside of the processed one. And I'm going to show you exactly how the branch-based workflow actually saves you from deploying broken code. And the stack that we're going to be using here is GitHub for version control and Vercel for deployment, because they handle all the infrastructure automatically. And that's basically time that you're not spending doing DevOps. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so that's our main branch in Git Tower. Everything here is live in production right now. You can see the commit history, the current state, and everything's visual here. Now, I'm using Git Tower because I like the visual representation, but you can also use free tools like SourceTree, GitKraken, or even VS Code extensions inside of Cursor that'll give you a similar branch visualization. And the first rule before we do anything is to never touch the main branch directly, ever. Instead, we're just going to create a feature branch, and watch how easy this is with the visual tool. All right, so in order for us to create a new branch from main, we're just going to go ahead and right click this here, and we're going to go down to where it says create new branch from main. And in here, we're just going to name it feature/add space image space preview space toggle. And in here, you can see it automatically adds a little dashes for us. And we're going to make sure that this setting's checked here, and we're going to go ahead and create branch. So what that does is it's going to automatically create that branch name and automatically check us out. So the branch is basically isolated here, and whatever we do here will not affect the main branch until I merge it. And we're going to get more into that a little bit later. This is why I love Git Tower. You can actually see the visual branch structure, and it just kind of clicks for me visually. Hopefully it does the same for you. Now we've got our feature branch, and this is where Cursor comes in. I'm going to use AI to write this image preview toggle feature. And because we're on a branch, if the AI generates garbage code, it actually doesn't matter. Production is completely safe. And the feature we're actually going to make is pretty straightforward. Users just want to see the original image alongside of the process one. And we already have both stored in our blob store. So all we need to do now is just build the UI. And we're also going to make sure we're going to use Next.js 15's optimization features for caching and prefetching. And watch how fast we can actually build this feature. So what I like to do here is start with Cursor's agent window, and I'm going to hit Shift Tab to get into plan mode. You can see this yellow planning mode here. My favorite model for this is actually Sonnet 4.5 with the actual thinking brain. I make sure I have that on there. And we're basically going to do a prompt like this. I'm going to use this thing called Whisper Flow, and I really like this for my transcriptions because it's really good. Users want to toggle between processed and original images. We have both stored in the blob storage already, and I want to add a toggle UI component that basically switches between them. I want to use Next.js 15 image component with proper caching and make sure that we're prefetching both images for smooth transitions. Feel free to use ref MCP and exa code MCPs for this research. So because we're in plan mode, what's really nice is that the agent's going to do a lot of work in this type of environment so that we can find the research that we need to make sure we're using the latest standards for Next.js 15. See, the problem is a lot of times the AI language models were trained from over a year ago, and that training data will persist. And what we do now is use these specific MCPs. I have a video on that you can check on a little bit later. Just go ahead and click this area right here. You should probably see it. And that's going to actually get you to configure those if you haven't configured those yet. And so what's nice about Cursor is that it actually asks us some questions before we continue with this type of thing. And I'm just going to go ahead and answer them here down below. So it's asking which image versions should be toggled between original uploaded and AI process. Both are stored in the blob storage, or something else. We're going to toggle between the original upload and the processed version. Obviously, right now, the processed version is the only one that shows up. So users want to see both. And then where should the UI toggle appear? in the modal only full size view in both image preview and image modal, or just in the image preview grid? Okay. I want the toggle to be in the image modal only. That's basically when the user clicks the full size image. It's just easier to see. And then the last part here is the prefetching strategy. Prefetch both images when the modal opens. Yes. Yeah, I think that's gonna be easier. So this is currently building our plan. Add a UI toggle to the image modal. This is really great. Okay. Original image is generated false, contains uploaded blob URL, generated image true. So if you're watching this, it's really important for you to just read over the details of the plan. This is going to be what the AI agent is going to rely on when it's building your software. If you're going to be using like the new GPT-5, GPT-5.1, GPT-5.1 Codex models, they are heavily going to go by word for word of what's in the actual plan. And anything that's wrong here will basically, they'll just do whatever it says. So if you tell it to go run off a cliff, unfortunately, it's going to go run off a cliff. It's just following its instructions. So you have to be really careful and make sure you read through the details here. If you have any questions, you can obviously continue the conversation inside of Cursor to go back and forth and get some clarity. So it looks like the plan is just finished. I just did a quick review and it looks like we have everything we need for this to work. Changes on our back end, some stuff that's also happening on the front end, and other things that we need to do for the optimizations, which is going to be really nice. And if we just take a look at this here, we have the option to go ahead and continue to build. So I'm just going to hit build, and we're just going to build the plan with Sonnet 4.5. So the reason why I chose Sonnet 4.5 to build it instead of some of the other models is because I actually enjoy the accuracy. I find that Sonnet 4.5, especially with the extended thinking mode, tends to be very, very accurate when it's making the changes. And I find some of the other models to be really fast, like Composer 1, but sometimes they'll miss little important details. And with something like this, to me, time matters. And I don't mind paying a little extra just to make sure I have that accuracy and not have to really worry about it. So reliability for me right now is really important and key. And this is part of that Ship Smart series. I welcome you to actually try different models and try different things. But I'm just telling you some of my workflow and why I want to use this model to move really quickly and also maintain high accuracy. But part of this whole workflow that we have here with Cursor's agent window is the ability to review. So if I hit review right now, we're going to see all the changes that are currently flying in. And right now we're seeing changes to the images component in Convex. And then we also have some components here on the image modal. And so we see this currently landing. And as this is coming in, we can actually see, hey, is the code looking good? So this review, just by clicking here, shows up right here. And then we can go back to our plan over here on this side. And if we needed to make changes to the plan, we could also do that as well. But as of now, everything looked pretty good. So it looks like Cursor is just kind of wrapping up the code here. It says all the to-dos were completed, and it's just doing one final build to make sure that everything looks okay. It even did some linting checks and everything to make sure all is looking pretty good. I'm gonna hit Command J, and with Command J, what happens here is that we're able to pull up our server and go ahead and run things. So I'm going to bun x convex dev. So I'm going to kick off the convex server, so that way all of our functions get pushed to convex. And I'm going to do Command / this way. And what that does is allows me to have like another terminal window kind of side by side, so I can kind of see both of them running. Whoops. In the terminal window, I'm going to do bun dev. And there we go. Cool. So I'm going to do Command click. And if I Command click this, it's going to open our little window here. And this is just going to reload the site for what it is. And so from here, you can actually see the site being rebuilt. And now we have everything rebuilt. If I click one of these modals now, we should be able to show the original. So if I go up here to show original, there's the original image and shows the process. This is actually amazing. And basically with one prompt, I know it's a pretty simple image, but we're able to just do it in one shot. I didn't have to reprompt it again and do these types of things. And you see how important it is to describe some of the details in your prompt for what you want, but also make sure you bring up any recent relevant documentation as well. So this is really nice. Actually, this is a really great feature. If I go hit the right toggle, I can see my friends here. If I show original, we can see the original image. And that way you can kind of see what effect has been applied to the image here. And then if I have a mobile view, I want to make sure that that works here so we can kind of see that everything's kind of working. This is awesome. So that's cool. Now that we've verified the stuff is working, let's go ahead and check out some Git workflows here. And in Cursor, what we want to go ahead and do is go to this top right corner, and this is going to reveal this little sidebar toggle. And in here, there's this little branch feature. So we're going to go ahead and click that. And you can actually see that this is the current changes we have for review. So this is all the stuff that we're reviewing right here as far as diffs. And if you want to preview them, you can just go ahead and click the file and it'll give you a preview. But what we want to go ahead and do is where it says stage all changes, you can just go ahead and do that. And when you stage all the changes, you basically accept all of the changes the agent did in Cursor. And what Cursor has the option to do here is to generate a commit message. So if we click these little stars, that's going to basically go through and write a simple commit message. And it's kind of nice because if you are writing lots of commits and want to move really quickly, this is just a good way to, get some good hygiene in there. You can actually see as it says the feature added what we did and the toggles and so forth. So this same workflow in Git Tower will show up right here as well. So we see the feature that's currently added here. We have a working copy. And as far as working copy, this is just going to be a preview of the actual things that are going to be checked in. And when we go ahead and hit commit, what this is going to do is actually going to keep these things here locally on our machine. But we need to then push this up to the cloud. If you're already in Cursor, all you have to do is just hit publish branch. And you can kind of see how this is happening in the Git workflow. And so what this actually did was it pushed the actual branch into the cloud here. And now we're actually going to see it in GitHub. And so in order for us to see it in GitHub, another way that you can do that is just go ahead and highlight over here. And it says open in GitHub. So in GitHub, now this actual commit is going to be on the cloud. And because we have everything connected through Vercel, what ends up happening here is I'm going to show you what this looks like in Vercel. So if we go to Vercel and go to our deployments, it actually automatically kicks off a preview deployment. And so when this finishes its actual build, we're going to be able to preview this live in production. That's really, really cool. And it saves us lots of time because now we can actually verify that it builds correctly on our servers. And the final step is going to be us making sure we can push these changes into our production environment. So now that I click into the build, we actually see that it just took about less than a minute to build. And in order for us to preview, we can just go ahead and hit visit up here, and this will actually take us to the actual preview URL. And so here we are. Now that we've landed here, I'm just going to click one of the images, and we can see already, show the original, show the process, show the original. And we can even do another test. I'm going to go ahead and drop another image here in production just to make sure that this works accordingly. So I think this one here of my dog would be really cute. So now we're doing the upload flow, and we're testing everything in the development environment currently in production. So this is no longer running on my local host. This is actually running in production. And this is a really great way for us to check and see what's going on. So as you can see, this is currently the transformation that we're waiting for, and it's already done. It's come back. Here's a leash, and we get show original, and we see that there, and show processed. So this is a really good step. We've made it this far, and we've been able to verify that things are actually deployed on Vercel. It picked up the branch that was already created in GitHub, built the software, and has it ready to go. So what's nice about this workflow as well is the fact that any changes that we make in the future is just going to kick off another build. So let me just quickly recap all the things that we've done here. We have been able to push the actual changes into our production branch, but we did not push them into main. We pushed it into the feature branch here. And you can see in our remote repository currently in GitHub, the actual changes have been pushed up there as well. And what happened, you can actually see if we just go to the main GitHub page here, we're going to see a new thing called feature/add image preview toggle. Because this has been pushed up to the cloud, GitHub can already detect that there's some changes here. And this is really nice workflow. So this means that we've also been able to preview our deployments in Vercel. And the way that we go ahead and do that is in our project, if we click Anime Leak, we go over to the deployments tab. This is where we've been able to see a preview of our deployments. So any changes that we have in any branches will just show up here in the preview deployments. What's nice is that this is safe from our production build. So anyone who goes to animeleak.com, they won't be affected by these changes yet. And that way, if we have any big breaking changes or something happens, we don't want that to get into production. And this is going to be a really safe way for us to test. We've been able to verify that things actually work in our development environment and also on Vercel. And we have a green check mark. That means that everything deployed successfully and there weren't any additional changes to fix. And so the next step that we're going to go ahead and do here is going to do a compare and pull request. What's going to happen here is this is actually where the merge to production actually ends up happening. And so this is going to have some information that already pre-fills as far as the stuff that we did. And this is where we can do an additional code review just to make sure that the changes that we're going to push to production aren't going to break anything. And so we've already tested them. We've taken a look and just kind of did a rough sketch as far as like, hey, this stuff looks pretty good. There wasn't any egregious code that was added that we don't really agree with. The good thing is that if it does break anything in production, we can always roll that back. And I could probably go into more details later. But at this point, if you made it this far, just drop something in the comments, share this with a friend. Make sure you stay subscribed because I have a bunch of videos like this that show you how to ship smart coming up soon. So in here, everything looks good to me. Let's go ahead and create this pull request. So now that we've created this, what's going to happen is a pre-production build is going to kick off. This is just the last build that happens before we push anything to the main branch. And this is a really good idea to check everything that's going on. So it says some checks have not completed yet. For me, I have Cursor BugBot installed, and Cursor BugBot is just going to do some checks on our code just to make sure there isn't anything egregious. It's basically another code review. And this costs $40 a month. And if you have anything that you're pushing into production and you want some additional eyes on, it is fairly costly, but I find that the value is extremely high for the work that they do. It's just like having another person that you actually want to take a look at your code and point some stuff out. And I also have Graphite for AI reviews as well. That looks like it's checkmarked as well. And we're just going to wait for the BugBot thing for it to be successful. Once everything's successful, we're going to be able to merge to production. So just a note here, it looks like Cursor came back with the review and it really didn't understand that the whole point of this is I don't want to show the toggle until the image is complete. And we've already verified that in production. So this is just the Cursor BugBot coming in with some additional information saying, hey, the toggle won't appear for in progress uploads. And this actually breaks the feature. And that's kind of the point. It's like, we don't want the toggle to actually appear until this stuff is ready. And we've already verified that that works. So this review that it came back with, it is very helpful to just kind of get us to rethink things and making sure that we're doing the right thing. But we're actually, all the behavior that we have is intended and as designed. So this is basically done, and we can just go ahead and merge our pull request into production. Now that we know that the feature basically works perfectly in our preview environment, the images load pretty fast, the toggle's nice and smooth, and everything's also optimized. We're actually now ready to merge this to production. I took a look at the note earlier from Cursor, and it looks like the toggle won't appear for progress uploads. And that's actually as intended and by design. So this note here, while it is possible, if we actually had a really important issue to fix, we can actually hit fix on the web or fix in Cursor, and that will punch you into Cursor. You can make some changes, and then it's going to do another build before we get to production. But because this isn't a breaking issue, and this is actually not really something that we need to do anything with right now, we're actually going to see if we can merge this into production. This is the final step, and watch what happens as we hit merge. The pull request has successfully merged and closed. You basically have now set the branch to be safely deleted. So now that the branch has made it over into main, we can just go ahead and delete the feature branch. That way we don't have a bunch of strangling branches around, and it's just really good hygiene in general. And so while that's going, I'm going to show you what's happening on Vercel so that way you can kind of see what's going on. Because we merged to main, in Vercel by default, stuff that's merged to main will kick off a production build. And that's what we're seeing kick off right now. At the end of the production build, what ends up happening is that we're going to have the final software that we just qualified there in the feature branch be available to everyone else who goes to animeleak.com. And the build just finished. So now if I go to animeleak.com, if you go there right now live, let me just go ahead and start creating. So now that I'm logged in, actually, I can pull up this image here. And then what I can do is hit show original and then toggle off and toggle it back on. So here, we've actually just shipped our feature into production using this workflow. That's pretty cool. I'm going to see this image here. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Here's one of my friendly. So now you can see the original stake, and then you can kind of see the one that's processed. I think it's really cool. So we go back to the code. Now in our code environment, we're going to see that there was a commit that was done 2 minutes ago. This was our merge from everything back into production. If I could take a look at the commits, we can see all the stuff that we worked on today. And so this is the first commit from Cursor that we made for the image toggle, and this is the merging back into production. And if I show you what this looks like here, we're just going to go ahead and hit this little pull button in Git Tower. So this will actually fetch all of the remotes and everything that is there. And we're going to see, hey, there's 2 more changes that we need to pull into the main branch here. And so that's saying, hey, this is like what we've actually merged into production. We can see that there. And this is, going from the feature branch into production. And what we need to do now is I'm going to double click the main branch. So that basically hops us over, and all the code that's currently in here is still out of date until we pull the latest stuff in. So these little arrows basically show us that there is still code that's on the server that we need to pull in, and we can just go ahead and do that by hitting this little pull here. So I'm going to go ahead and sync branch. And so now we have the latest code available locally on our machine. So if we want to go ahead and create new features from here on forward, we can follow the same process again. So that's my complete Ship Smart workflow. The feature branch is in Git Tower, AI development with Cursor, auto-generate commits, preview environment testing, and finally production deployment. The reason this works so well is basically the separation of concerns. You're never gambling with production. Every change gets tested in a real environment first, and you have the complete visual history of every change. And platforms like Vercel, they all handle the infrastructure automatically. So you're not spending time setting up the CI/CD pipelines or managing deployment scripts. To me, I'd rather spend time deploying features instead of doing DevOps. This is the foundation. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how I set up my rules files to keep your AI agents from doing silly things. And real quick, if you want a one-to-one mentorship on shipping with AI, I'm opening up a small group in December. You can go to startmy.ai to get on the waitlist. There are limited spots because I actually want to work with you directly. And if you found this helpful, subscribe because we're going deep on practical AI shipping workflows for production. Thanks for watching.